How we install our third-party libraries using Cocoapods. First of all, I'm going to close my Xcode application here and then open the terminal. If you don't know where it is, just command space and you can type terminal, it will open for you. Once you are here, if you haven't updated your terminal to the new version, here when you open, it will show you how to update to a new format of the terminal. I don't remember how this thing was called, but as long as you don't get any notification here that they have migrated the terminal to a new version, you don't have to do anything. So once you are in terminal, currently we are in root folder, and in order to use our Cocoapods, we need to be in our folder where our application is. So mine is on my desktop, and the easiest way to get there is you just say cd, which means change directory, and just drag drop the file, and this will put the path in our terminal. Just hit enter, and now we are in our folder. So if I open it here, this is our visual representation, and I will move this down here, and if I say ls to list all the files we have, it says that we have a messenger folder and some messenger Xcode project file, which is what we want here. In order to use the Cocoapods, we need to create a pod file. So I can say pod init in my terminal, hit enter, and this will create a pod file here. If I do an ls again, now you can see we have also a pod file here. Now you can double tap on this to open it, or you can write in terminal open pod file, and this will open it in standard text editor. What we are interested in, this will have your project name as a target, and then there is this line. Let me just make it bigger so you can see it easily. Pods for messenger, and whatever line has this pound sign in front of it, it means that this is like a comment. It will be ignored. And underneath, you are going to put all the pods that you want to install, and the pods are just library names. I'm going to copy and paste these, and then also I'm going to provide the code because I don't want to type all these. But each line here is a separate library. So if you are asking a question like where do you get this information from, for example, taking like the Firebase part, if you go to the Firebase, go to the documentations, and then here are some quick start things. Getting started with iOS is what we are interested in. And this tells you step by step how to install the Firebase. We are somewhere here, pod init, we created our pod file. And then it tells us what we are going to add and what options we have. So we can add different Firebase libraries. And then we're going to call the pod install in order to save all these, and this is telling us how to initialize. But if you scroll down a little bit, here you can see all the available libraries through Firebase. So whatever you need, you can get the pod name, and then for example AdMob, you need to install this, analytics, you need to put this, etc. So in our case, we are interested in Firebase core, which is, if you want to use the Firebase, you have to have this. Authentication is for using Firebase user authentication. Firestore is the real-time database of Firestore. Storage allows us to save data like photo, video, audio, or any data file you have in Firebase. And then we just get a link to that file location. Firebase Messaging is for push notification. This is the cloud messaging. And Firebase Firestore Swift, this is to use the libraries for Codable. This makes much easier to work with the Codable and Firebase. And we have something underneath. These are the third-party libraries we are going to use. Gallery, Realm, Swift. Realm is a local database like Core Data. I think it's much faster and easier to use. That's why we're going to use Realm here in order to save our chats locally for our offline use. And also for much faster use than the Firebase, because Firebase by default allows us to use local database as well from provided by Firebase, but I think Realm is much better option here. This gallery, Progress HUD, SK Photo Browser, Message Kit, and Input Bar accessories. All these things you can find on GitHub. So if you go to GitHub and, for example, search for gallery, it will, and we are interested in the Swift project. You can choose the one from here, and then there is the first one. This is the library we are going to use. This just allows us to pick different pictures and multiple pictures if you want to from your image picker. It's just nice way of showing an image picker controller. Also, it integrates the camera inside, so it's one-stop shop, not to include the default iOS image picker. Then we have this Progress HUD. Again, you can look for it here. You can come to GitHub and search here. And this is some library with, let's see where they are, with some different HUD that shows us some loading bars animation. So this is what we are going to use, like to show something uploading picture, or to show some notification to our user, etc. And we have SK Photo Browser. This is also a simple library that shows, we provide it with an image and then it shows it on a separate screen. I think it's this one. Yeah. So we give it an image and then it shows you like in this slideshow manner, and you can click left, right to slide through the images. And finally, the most important, I think, for this project is the message kit. And this is the library we are going to use in order to show the messages, the chat room of our application. So if you go here, this is an open source build messaging library where each this is like the design of each cell, etc. You can check it out if you are interested in. You can download also the starter project. It's a demo. You can come here and like download the zip or open in Xcode. This will download you, and there are example showing you how the chat view works. All right, so this is just a part of message kit. We are using this for input bar. So this is all the third-party libraries we are going to use, and let's just Command S to save our pod file, or you can go to File and then save it somewhere here. Yeah, it's once you save it, you close the pod file. If you had closed the terminal, then you have to open and navigate to your location of your pod file again. I haven't closed mine, so I'm going to say pod install, and depending on what internet you have, this may take some time to install, or if you have a good internet, it's gonna be very fast and just get all the libraries and install these on your machine. So mine is ready. It took like 30 seconds, and even though I have like 60 megabits internet. So once it's done, you can see that there is notification here. It says please close any current Xcode session and use messenger.xcode workspace. So this is my project name. If you have called your project differently, you will have something different here. But what is important here is just make sure you close your project, and from now on you are going to use a different file to open it. I'm going to close my terminal because I no longer need this. And now you can see it added some extra folders here. We have the pods folder, we have the pod file log, and also this white icon application. So initially we had this blue Xcode project, and now we have this Messenger Xcode Workspace. So from now on, you are going to open only this file so you can access the project. Because if you don't open this one, you use this one, you are not going to have access to the pods that we have installed. So let's open this. I'm going to bring this to my main screen here. And initially we had only this blue messenger project area here. Now we have another one, it's called pods. And underneath you can see the pod file we have created with all the content inside, and all the libraries that we have installed is under the pods. If you click on a pod folder, you can see all these libraries were downloaded and installed for us by Cocoapods, so we don't have to do them manually. So as long as you have this and there are no errors, just say Command B, or you can say Command Shift K, which clean builds the project. And once everything is indexed, we are going to just run our project one more time on our iPhone 11 Pro simulator. And if everything runs properly, it means we have downloaded and installed all these third-party libraries properly. I can see how many tasks there are to complete. So the first run, once you install all these libraries, is going to take some time. So I'm going to pause my video here. You may get some kind of warnings here on the left side. Don't worry about them. Whatever is yellow warning, there is nothing to be concerned of, as long as it's not a red error, especially now that the Xcode is still in beta version. Some of the libraries may not be ready for the new iOS version, iOS 14, but again, as long as there are no red errors, we are perfectly fine. So I'm going to pause the video and continue once everything is installed. Alright, the application is running and we have our white screen. It means we didn't get any errors and the application is running properly. Now let's go to our folders here. What we are going to do is now we're going to create a Firebase project for our current application. For this, you have to select the top level, this blue, your application name. In my case, it's Messenger. Then we are interested in this bundle identifier. I'm going to copy this, Command C, and let's go to our Firebase. This documentation, I don't need them now, and GitHub is also same with Cocoapods, and so I'm going to keep only my Firebase. So here I'm going to create a project, call this Messenger. It may not be available. All right, it's good. Click continue. It's asking if you want to enable Google Analytics. I'm going to say no. Let's create a project. This will take a few seconds to create a project for us. All right, our project is ready, so just click continue. And this will take you to your project. So if you go back to the Firebase, here you are going to see, if this is your first project, you're going to see only the current project you created, and I have some other projects here. So we go into our project, and each project can have multiple applications inside, and including multiple applications for different platforms. We may have the same application for iOS, Android, web, Unity, anything you want. Right now, under this project, we are interested into creating an iOS application. So let's create on iOS. And this asks us to register our application with the Firebase. So we need to provide it with a bundle identifier, which is paste my code that I copied from Xcode. The rest are optional. I'm not going to do anything. Just click register. This will take a few seconds to register and create an application. And we will be provided with this Google Services info plist file, which it says that we have to place inside our project so that it can communicate with Google Firebase. So basically this info plist file includes all these parameters of our project. So I'm going to download this, and it goes to my downloads folder. Depending where yours goes, I'm just going to show in Finder. And there are two options of getting this into your project. The first one is drag and drop. Sometimes, especially with Xcode beta, I don't recommend this because Xcode sometimes doesn't understand that you have added a new file. So the best way is just select your info plist file, because we want to add this after our info plist. Go to File, Add Files to, and then you will have your application name. And here I will just go to my downloads and get this Google Services info plist. As you can see, mine has 1 next to it, and the reason is every time you download a Google Services info file, different projects, all of them have the same name. So you can see I have one here already. So the reason this has one, because it just creates an extra name to it, so you don't have to override it. But when you import it, click Add, make sure you come here and remove the anything extra you have in the name. So it should be Google Services info.plist file. Otherwise, it's not going to recognize it as the proper file and it will not work. Once we have this file added to our project, we can go to our app delegate. Let me close the side panels here. And here I'm going to say import Firebase. And then inside our did finish launching with options, I'm going to put some extra spaces here, and we need to initialize our Firebase application. So say Firebase app, and we say configure. So this will initialize our Firebase, and we will have all the functions, all the linkage to our Firebase database. So let's go to our Firebase here. We click next, that this was done, and then it tells us how we need to install the Cocoapods. This we have already. Click next, and here it tells us what we need to do in order to initialize it for Swift and Objective-C if you are using that, but for us we are interested into Swift. It says import the Firebase, and then it says Firebase app configure. You call this function and it will do the setup for you. Click next, and it says everything is done. You just click continue to console, and this is where you are now. Currently we have this application, and we are interested in these 3 top things here. The first one is authentication. This one we are using to log in and register our user. The second part is the database. Once you click on it, you will have 2 options here. One is to create a database, Firebase Firestore, which is the latest version of real-time database. Or I think if you scroll down, you can still create a real-time database, but I don't suggest you do that because it's deprecated anyway. So we are using the Firebase Firestore. So click on create database. It will ask what rules you want to provide. And the first one, start test mode, this will allow any user any access to the database, and it gives you, I think, 30 days. Yeah, within 30 days, anyone with a link can access your database and can read and write. Or you can say start production mode, and here you have to specify your rules for read and write. We are going to start in production mode, and then we click next. Here you have to choose what server you have. Just choose the closest one to you. I am in Europe, so I'm choosing Europe, or you have North America. Click create, done. This will initialize your database. Alright, so our database is ready. The third place we are going to use is the storage. The storage is used to upload big files, and then we will get a link to save it in our database. We just click get started with our storage, and just click, this is again the default rules. For storage, the default rule is that the user has to be authenticated, which means he has to be logged in order to access the Firebase database. I'm going to copy these rules, click next. Again, we are already have chosen, in my case, Europe, so we are doing our database in the Europe servers as well. So this will set up for us the storage, and Here you can see the rules. You can change them at any point you want. Currently it says allow read and write if request authentication not equals to null. It means that the user has to be authenticated. We can do the same for our database here. Just go to the rules and look, if I click Command V here and publish, you will have on the left side the history, what type of rules at what point you had and when they were changed. So the last thing we need to do inside our authentication, currently there is no option for the user to log in. So we are going to say set up methods, and here you can see all the ways Google Firestore allows the user to log in from all these different providers. We are currently interested in only in email password. I'm going to enable this, and there is an option to send the password by email, which we don't want. We want the user to give its own password and keep it for himself. Right, now if you go to the users, you see there are no users currently. You can create one from here, but again, we're not going to do that. Everything in our database we are going to do through our front end. So our iOS application is going to do the creation and login and all the access to the database.